Are you excited about the new arrival to the royal family?
As far as I'm aware, nobody's arrived yet. And it's quite a long way to go, but no, we're thrilled by the news. All best wishes to her.
In an exclusive BBC One interview that aired on a crisp October evening, Princess Catherine of Wales leaned slightly forward in her chair, her eyes alight with a quiet yet unmistakable warmth. Across from her sat acclaimed journalist Emily Maitlis, known for her unflinching interviews, but tonight, even Emily's usually firm tone softened. "May I ask, Catherine, are the rumors true?" With a smile that carried more than joy, resilience, hope, even defiance, Catherine simply nodded. "Yes," she said, voice steady. "We are expecting our fourth child." The world paused. No royal announcement, no fanfare, no Buckingham Palace press release. Just Catherine, sitting in a softly lit room, sharing the most personal news with remarkable calm. Her eyes flickered with emotion. "It feels like a miracle, really. I've always dreamed of having two boys, 2 girls like Her Majesty the Queen had. But I didn't know if that dream would survive the last year. Because beneath the gentle announcement was a story far more complex. A tale of survival, silence, and sisterhood. Catherine's pregnancy," she explained, "comes after what she calls the most private war of my life." In early 2024, shortly after her appearance at a New Year's event at Sandringham, she was diagnosed with stage 1 cervical cancer. "I had gone in for what I assumed would be a routine post-operative checkup after abdominal discomfort," she said. "And then suddenly my entire world shifted. For months, the palace gave little information. Speculation ran wild. At times, silence was weaponized against her. But Catherine now confirms she underwent a private course of chemotherapy and immunotherapy, finishing treatment in September 2024. "I didn't want the children to see me sick," she confessed, eyes glistening. "I didn't want them to be afraid." She credits her recovery to early detection, a fiercely protective medical team, and what she called a circle of extraordinary women who walked the journey with her, some royal, others anonymous, all vital. Catherine, 43, acknowledged that after treatment, she had quietly made peace with the possibility that she would not carry another child. "I had a full consultation with my doctors. The odds were against me," she said. "So when I found out in August, it felt like the springtime of my life arrived again, like God gave me a second beginning." The baby, due in April 2026, is already being called a symbol of renewal by royal watchers. A new chapter, not just for the Wales family, but for a monarchy tested by illness, scandal, and shifting public loyalty. And as Catherine revealed, the due date was meaningful. 1948 was the year King Charles was born. That was the first full year of peace after the Second World War. It marked a new era. "I like to think this child born in the first year of a new world cycle might bring the same energy." "A girl, perhaps?" "I'd like a daughter," she said with a mischievous smile. "A little spring girl. Someone bold and radiant. Someone who looks like Charlotte but talks like George." The interview was not originally meant to be about her pregnancy. In fact, the palace had planned a formal engagement to promote Catherine's new foundation, the Rosemark Initiative, a UK and global partnership aimed at increasing early screening and vaccine access for cervical cancer in underserved communities. But days before the scheduled press conference, Catherine approached her team and asked for something more intimate. She wanted to speak like a mother, not just a patron, a senior aide told the BBC. She said this baby is her message, and she wanted to carry that message personally. Emily Maitlis described Catherine's request as one of the most astonishing journalistic moments of my career. She said, "I don't want to hide joy anymore. I don't want to hide pain either. And I knew then, this wasn't a story, this was history." The broadcast, filmed at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor, was delicate but unsparing. Catherine wore a soft teal dress designed by Stella McCartney, her hair longer than in previous appearances. She was barefaced, save for a touch of blush and a clear gloss. On her left wrist, a woven bracelet with her children's initials, GCL. Her voice trembled only once when she mentioned William. "He carried all of us," she said simply. "He carried the monarchy while my father-in-law battled cancer. He carried the children while I slept through treatment. And when we found out about the baby, he cried. He wept in my lap. It was the first time a member of the British royal family had openly discussed such personal health matters without a formal palace statement. And yet, it felt right. "This isn't about sympathy," Catherine said. "It's about awareness. I survived because my cancer was caught early, but so many women don't, and we can change that." The Rosemark Initiative, named for the small rose Catherine wore during her hospital visits, will be the most ambitious health campaign ever launched by a British royal, not yet on the throne. It includes a global awareness week for HPV education and screening access, partnerships with medical tech companies to expand low-cost screening tools, a fund to support cancer care for women in Commonwealth nations with low detection rates. Every woman deserves a fighting chance, Catherine said, and every child deserves to grow up with a healthy mother. This mission, she adds, is her calling, not her duty. And with that, she places a hand gently on her stomach. She's kicking, Catherine says with a laugh, catching Emily by surprise. I think she likes the spotlight already. The room melts into laughter. But beneath it all, one thing is clear. This isn't just a royal pregnancy. It's a royal rebirth. If the world was stunned by the announcement of Princess Catherine's fourth pregnancy, it was utterly shaken by what she revealed next in the interview. An ordeal she had kept hidden from the public eye for over a year. With her eyes steady, hands clasped loosely on her lap, and a voice just above a whisper, the Princess of Wales shared the words no one expected to hear. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer in February 2024. I kept it private because I didn't want my children to carry that fear. It was a stunning admission. As she continued speaking with journalist Emily Maitlis, the atmosphere shifted. The carefully arranged set, the soft Windsor lighting it all, faded behind the gravity of her words. Catherine revealed that the diagnosis came just days after she had undergone abdominal surgery. What was initially thought to be a minor health complication turned out to be something far more serious. When the doctors came back with the biopsy, she said, I felt the ground beneath me vanish. The news, Catherine explained, had come at a time when the royal household was already in turmoil. King Charles III had just publicly disclosed his own cancer diagnosis. Prince William had taken on a heavier share of royal duties. And Catherine, as ever, had stayed silent, absorbing the weight of her role even as her body waged a private war. I didn't want to be seen as fragile, Catherine admitted, her tone stripped of the usual royal polish. And perhaps, I didn't want to admit to myself that I was frightened. For months, she had kept her treatments quiet, attending chemotherapy sessions under a pseudonym, arriving before dawn at a private wing of King Edward VII Hospital. Only a handful of palace insiders knew. Prince William, ever by her side, rearranged his entire schedule to accompany her, even as he stood in for his ailing father at state events. There were days I couldn't lift my head, days I couldn't speak above a whisper. And yet, George still needed help with homework. Charlotte still needed someone to listen. Louis still wanted bedtime stories. End quote. Catherine's ability to compartmentalize, to be both mother and monarch in waiting, while silently enduring one of life's cruelest trials, is what many are now calling her most defining chapter. It's a narrative of grace under siege. What shook viewers most during the interview wasn't just the revelation of illness, it was her refusal to center herself in the story. I didn't want my children to look at me and see fear, she said. I wanted them to see a fighter, but I also wanted them to see a woman who could ask for help. Catherine spoke of shielding the children from the hospital visits, from the fatigue and the nausea, from the harsh realities of chemotherapy. But she also mentioned how Charlotte, perceptive beyond her years, once left a handwritten note on her mother's bedside. You're braver than Mulan. She is her father's fire and her grandmother's light, Catherine said with a soft smile. I see Diana in her every day. The decision to go public now, Catherine explained, was prompted not just by her own remission but by a deeper sense of purpose. I've come through the worst of it. I ended chemotherapy in September 2024, but so many women around the world don't have access to early detection. That needs to change. And with those words, the princess introduced what may become one of the defining initiatives of her royal legacy, the Rose Project. Hell. Named after both the Rose of England and the symbolic resilience of women, the Rose Project is a pan-Commonwealth initiative aimed at fighting cervical cancer through 3 pillars: early screening, HPV vaccination access, and maternal health education. I didn't want my story to end with survival, she said. I want it to begin with action. Catherine's team has already coordinated with the WHO, the Gates Foundation, and NHS England to design mobile diagnostic units for underserved communities in both the UK and developing Commonwealth nations. The initiative's pilot phase is set to launch in early 2026, with a specific focus on young women aged 18-30. What makes the Rose Project unique is its focus on dignity. We're not just bringing medicine, we're bringing listening ears, cultural respect, and women-to-women partnerships, Catherine explained. This is not the first health-related initiative spearheaded by the princess. Her Shaping Us campaign on early childhood development continues to impact policy across the UK. But the Rose Project, rooted in personal experience, carries a different emotional weight. It's no longer just about being the future queen, she said. It's about being a survivor who refuses to stay silent. Oh. For royal watchers, this new chapter of transparency is a seismic shift. Historically, the monarchy has cloaked medical matters in layers of privacy. Queen Elizabeth II famously never disclosed details of her own ailments. Even Charles III's cancer announcement was vague by design. But Catherine, part of a new generation of royals, is reshaping that narrative. She's doing something radical, said royal historian Dr. Helena Stratton. She's making vulnerability royal. Halzen. Indeed, the timing of the interview appears deliberate. With Charles's condition still closely monitored, and William gradually stepping into a more prominent role, the palace is undergoing its quiet evolution, and Catherine is its face. The contrast between her polished appearance in the interview and the harsh months that preceded it was not lost on viewers. People assume crowns come with protection, she said. But nothing shields you from illness. What matters is how you walk through it. And walk through it, she has gracefully, powerfully, and now, publicly. While Princess Catherine's quiet strength through illness touched millions, it is her response afterward that is redefining the role of royalty in the 21st century. In the interview, she outlined her ambitious new global health campaign, the Rose Project, a comprehensive, woman-led initiative to combat cervical cancer in the UK and across the Commonwealth. At the heart of this campaign lies a deeply personal mission: to ensure that no woman suffers in silence, as she once did. The rose, Catherine explained, is England's emblem, but it's also a flower that grows stronger after being cut back. I think that's what women do. That's what I did. The initiative draws its name not just from the iconic Tudor rose, but also from Catherine's mother's favorite flower and Diana's signature floral scent. It's an emblem with layers of meaning: monarchy, motherhood, and memory. The Rose Project will focus on 3 core pillars: early detection, expanding free access to cervical cancer screening, especially in underserved regions; HPV vaccination, providing education and vaccines in schools and community centers; support networks, establishing women-led spaces for emotional, psychological, and logistical support before, during, and after treatment. In collaboration with the World Health Organization, UN Women, and key Commonwealth partners, the Rose Project is launching pilot programs in the UK, with a focus on rural England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, Kenya, India, Belize, Papua New Guinea. Each program will be tailored to local needs. There's no one-size-fits-all, Catherine said. We're not flying in experts to talk to women. We're training women to speak for themselves. The princess also revealed the development of a Royal Health Corps, a network of trained volunteers, midwives, nurses, survivors who will serve as Rose stewards in their communities. These women will be equipped to provide both clinical guidance and trauma-informed care. It's a model that mirrors her work with Shaping Us, but now scaled to global maternal health. Catherine's voice grew firm as she addressed the cultural taboos still surrounding gynecological health. In so many places, including here in Britain, cervical cancer is seen as something shameful, something whispered. That silence costs lives. She shared a story about visiting a support center in Birmingham in late 2024 during her remission. There, she met a 9-year-old woman named Amina, a British Pakistani mother of 3, who had never heard of the HPV vaccine and had never been screened. She thought the pain was just part of being a mother, Catherine said. By the time she saw a doctor, it was stage 3. Amina's story is not uncommon. In the UK alone, over 800 women die each year from a disease that is 95% preventable with regular screening and vaccination. Globally, cervical cancer kills over 300,000 women annually, mostly in lower-income countries. The disparity, as Catherine pointed out, is not scientific. It's systemic. We know how to stop it. We just haven't done enough. At the heart of the Rose Project is also a strong emotional through-line, one that connects Catherine to the woman whose shadow still looms over the monarchy, Princess Diana. Diana taught the world that compassion doesn't need a filter, Catherine said. I hope this project honors her legacy. In a quiet, unpublicized moment last summer, Catherine visited a small AIDS hospice in Soweto, South Africa, the same site Diana had toured in 1997. According to local staff, Catherine laid a single white rose beneath Diana's portrait. No cameras, no speech, just a silent promise. The Rose Project will also house the Diana Registry, a global open-access database where women can share stories of diagnosis, treatment, and survival. It will be anonymized, secure, and offered in over 40 languages. Stories save lives, Catherine said. If one woman sees herself in another's journey, she may make a call, ask a question, or go to a clinic. That's the power of narrative. Prince William is said to be deeply proud of his wife's new mission. According to Kensington Palace aides, he has already begun discussions with NHS digital teams to streamline national screening notifications and integrate Rose Project referrals into existing GP systems. Queen Camilla, who has long championed osteoporosis awareness, issued a statement supporting Catherine's initiative, calling it a vital step toward breaking the final taboos in women's health. Even King Charles, amid his continued cancer treatment, is understood to have offered funding through the Royal Foundation, designating the Rose Project as a legacy tier cause. The first Royal Rose Summit is slated for June 2026, to coincide with Catherine's 45th birthday and the projected due date of her fourth child. In a moment that drew tears from viewers, Catherine spoke directly about her daughter Charlotte. "I want her to grow up in a world where she doesn't feel embarrassed to say the word cervix, where she knows that her body is not a burden, but a miracle, where women look out for each other." It is a vision as quietly radical as it is unmistakably maternal. As the interview closed, Catherine's eyes lit with something rare in royal discourse: defiance, not just duty. "When I was sick, I thought a lot about what it means to wear a crown. I used to think it meant staying strong. Now I think it means knowing when to ask for help and making sure no woman has to ask twice." Amidst the intense emotion and groundbreaking announcements of the interview, one segment brought a rare blend of royal tradition and maternal warmth. Catherine's heartfelt reflection on the significance of royal birth names and her own dream of having 4 children, just like Queen Elizabeth II. As the conversation turned to family, Catherine smiled gently. "We chose the names of our children very deliberately," she said. "Every name carries not just love, but lineage. It's a promise to the past and a hope for the future." When asked about Princess Charlotte's full name, Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, the princess's eyes glistened. "That name, to me, is a bridge," she said. "Charlotte for Charles, her grandfather, Elizabeth for the Queen, who has guided our family like a lighthouse, and Diana for the heart." She confirmed what many royal watchers had long suspected, that Queen Elizabeth II herself had gently encouraged the use of her name in Charlotte's title, viewing the child as a joyous spark of continuity, a rare honor, as monarchs rarely comment on naming traditions. The decision to include Diana was made after deep family discussion and a quiet blessing from both William and Prince Harry, who had grown closer behind the scenes during Catherine's illness. The most surprising moment came when Catherine casually mentioned her dream of having 4 children. "William always joked that we'd stop at 3, she laughed. "But I used to look at the Queen and think 4 seems like the perfect balance. 2 boys, 2 girls, chaos and harmony." She did not explicitly confirm a current pregnancy, but viewers immediately noticed the careful language and the deliberate reference to spring 2026 as a season of renewal. "And so, if I were to have another daughter," Catherine added with a teasing smile, "I'd want her to be born in the spring of 2026. It's the beginning of a new world cycle, a time for hope." Royal historians immediately drew parallels to Prince Charles's birth in 1948, which took place just after World War II, a symbol of national healing. Could the 4th Cambridge child serve as a similar symbol in today's fractured monarchy? Throughout history, royal names have followed a pattern of homage, strategy, and symbolism. At least 3 names are standard, often including relatives, reigning monarchs, and patron saints. Middle names serve diplomatic or historical functions. First names must be distinct yet familiar, never too modern, nor too obscure. For example, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary honored Queen Elizabeth's mother, Elizabeth, great-grandmother, Alexandra, and grandmother, Mary. Charles Philip Arthur George recognized both royal and familial heritage. By naming her daughter Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, Catherine struck a balance between respect, innovation, and emotional resonance. She wanted her daughter to inherit strength, grace, and compassion, said a senior aide, and she succeeded. The interview revealed another touching moment. Catherine described Charlotte's fierce independence and intelligence, already likened by many to the late Queen. "She has my cheekbones," Catherine joked, "but she has her great-grandmother's resolve." Charlotte reportedly enjoys Shakespeare, chess, and climbing trees. At school, she's earned the affectionate nickname, Little Lioness, from teachers for both her academic skill and her fearless spirit. Catherine shared that Charlotte often questions royal traditions with sincere curiosity. "The other day," Catherine said, "she asked me why boys wear ties to dinner and girls don't. She doesn't see hierarchy, just habits." It's no wonder that Charlotte has already become a quiet icon, a future woman of Windsor poised to blend modern sensibility with timeless dignity. The glow of Catherine's present-day joy was hard-won. Behind her serene public appearances lies a story of resistance, not just from her own body, but from an institution where tradition often outweighs transparency. When Catherine was first diagnosed with early-stage cervical cancer in early 2024, the palace's immediate reaction was silence. It wasn't malicious, it was habitual. The royal machine, one insider said, was trained to protect, not to expose, especially when it came to women's health. But Catherine felt differently. "If I were just Catherine Middleton," she told the interviewer, "I would have gone public immediately. I know what silence does, it breeds shame." It took weeks of careful negotiation, crisis meetings, and behind-the-scenes tension before the princess was allowed to film her now iconic March 2024 video announcement in which she disclosed her diagnosis and treatment. "The video almost didn't happen," admitted a senior aide. "There were concerns about public perception, destabilizing the monarchy, and even setting a precedent. What changed everything was a conversation with her daughter, Charlotte. I told her I was going to lose my hair," Catherine said softly, and she looked at me and said, "Will you still be mummy if you look like a soldier?" That broke me. I needed every girl to know, yes, you're still you. Always. Catherine's advocacy clashed with more traditional figures inside the palace. Though King Charles III ultimately supported her decision to go public, others weren't convinced. Some senior courtiers reportedly worried it would shift public focus from strength to sympathy. One long-standing official allegedly warned, "This isn't a documentary, this is the crown." But Catherine, drawing strength from William and her own medical team, pushed forward. "She told them she wasn't asking for permission," said a staffer. "She was informing them." How? It was this inner resolve sharpened by illness, motherhood, and public scrutiny that transformed the princess from a royal consort into a campaigning force. In the months following her final round of treatment in September 2024, Catherine quietly began developing what would become her most ambitious initiative yet, the Rose Project, a worldwide movement for cervical cancer awareness and prevention. Named after her favorite childhood flower and the traditional symbol of English womanhood, the Rose Project is rooted in 3 pillars: education, promoting HPV vaccine access and awareness for girls and boys, ages 9–14 across the Commonwealth; screening, funding mobile cervical screening units in rural areas of England, Wales, Kenya, India, and Papua New Guinea; legacy stories, a digital archive of survivor testimonies to reduce stigma and celebrate resilience. The project's pilot phase launched quietly in March 2025, with partnerships across 7 countries and backing from global organizations like the WHO and UN Women. By October 2025, it had already served over 400,000 women and girls. Its expansion into Southeast Asia and the Caribbean is expected in early 2026, timed symbolically, with what many believe may be the birth of her 4th child. Throughout the interview, Catherine emphasized that this initiative isn't just about her story, but the millions of women who never get the chance to tell theirs. "When you're royal, people assume you're above the fear," she said, "but illness doesn't care about palaces, and silence doesn't cure anything." The princess also shared that she received over 30,000 letters from women after her cancer video aired. One from a nurse in Liverpool read, "You gave us permission to talk about what we've been trained to hide." Another came from a 13-year-old girl in Ghana who said she was scared to get the HPV shot, but after hearing about Princess Kate's brave cells, she went with her mother and got vaccinated. "These are the real victories," Catherine said. "Not headlines, but lives changed quietly, beautifully." Interestingly, the interview also touched on the response of other royal women. While Queen Camilla never publicly commented on Catherine's diagnosis or project, Princess Anne was a staunch supporter from day one. "She wrote me a letter," Catherine revealed. "It simply said, 'Real queens bleed. Speak.' I still have it framed." Anne's quiet endorsement and her record of over 50 years of medical charity patronage gave Catherine the confidence to challenge palace resistance. It also forged a deep bond between the 2 women. Behind the scenes, it's believed Anne helped neutralize opposition from several senior male courtiers who had lobbied against Catherine's visibility during treatment. "She didn't shout," said a palace insider. "She just said, 'The princess has earned the right. Let her lead.' And that was the end of the argument." The interview that began with a whispered revelation, a quiet suggestion of a 4th royal baby, ended with a bold declaration of intent. Princess Catherine, now entering what many call her legacy phase, has transformed the very idea of what it means to be a modern royal woman. As the interview drew to a close, the host asked Catherine a question few royals would ever answer directly. If you could design the future of the monarchy, what would it look like? Catherine didn't hesitate. It would be kinder, quieter, sharper when it needs to be. It would protect its children, not just the ones with titles. And it would listen more to the women because we've always been there, behind the curtains, holding everything up. It was a closing thought that struck a nerve across the nation. No lofty metaphors, no ceremonial evasions, just truth. She added one final note, her voice a mix of warmth and steel. The monarchy isn't just about survival anymore, it's about service. And service begins at the cellular level in the bodies, hearts, and stories of our women. Catherine's subtle reference to spring 2026 and her hope for a baby girl has already ignited speculation, but insiders suggest her words carried layered meaning. It's not just about the baby, said one senior palace aide. It's about rebirth, of the crown, of trust, of purpose. If a fourth child is indeed on the way, it would mark a rare royal alignment, the first new baby born into the direct line of succession during an era of radical internal reform. With Charles III aging and William shouldering more responsibility, this child would be born into a monarchy remade. Like Charles in 1948, said royal historian Lydia Farnsworth, this child could symbolize hope after fire, not war, but illness, scandal, and silence. And if it is a girl, many expect her name to echo the lineage of healing and history, perhaps Alexandra, after Queen Victoria's daughter and Queen Elizabeth II's middle name, or Rose, after Catherine's global initiative. But for now, the princess simply smiles and says, "We'll see." As her initiative, the Rose Project, expands, Catherine's next ambition is nothing less than historic. In April 2026, she will host the first-ever Royal Global Summit on Cervical and Women's Health, to be held at Windsor Castle. Delegates from 52 nations, including doctors, survivors, advocates, and royalty, will gather for 3 days of workshops, panel discussions, and strategy. The event will be co-chaired by Princess Catherine of Wales, Queen Mathilde of Belgium, psychologist and maternal health advocate, Dr. Florence Onaivu, leading Nigerian oncologist, HRH Princess Lilibet, Diana of Montecito, expected to attend her first joint public event with the Windsors. One major focus will be the establishment of a Commonwealth Women's Health Fund, aiming to raise £300 million over 5 years to train midwives and gynecological nurses across low-resource regions, expand HPV vaccine availability in 20-plus countries, launch new research into gynecological cancers disproportionately affecting women of color. Catherine's influence is clear, not as a figurehead, but as a working visionary who has transformed her private battle into global momentum. Throughout the interview, Catherine referred to William as her anchor and mirror. It was he who encouraged her to film the cancer announcement video. He told her she could be a different kind of queen. He said, "The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be real." And I held on to that. She also spoke briefly and meaningfully about her daughter, Princess Charlotte. "She's watching everything. How I fight, how I rest, how I speak. I want her to inherit more than a title. I want her to inherit freedom." In those words, one could feel the quiet evolution of the crown itself. No longer draped only in pearls and protocols, but in purpose, persistence, and love. The interview concluded not with trumpets, but with tears. A final message from Catherine, read softly into the camera. To every woman who has felt ignored, delayed, dismissed, or ashamed, you are not alone. Your body is not a burden. Your story matters. And we are building a world where that truth is unshakable. It was a mic drop moment, not of rebellion, but of restoration. A legacy not borrowed from Diana, but forged beside her memory. A monarchy not frozen in tradition, but blooming anew.